Welcome to Invercargill in New Zealand's deep south, home to cycling Southland and a region rich in scenery and character. This is the SBS Bank Tour of Southland, one of the country's longest running sporting events and the most prestigious title in New Zealand cycling. 18 teams will challenge themselves and each other over 7 stages and 850 kilometres across the roads of Southland, facing everything the terrain and weather can throw at them. At the end of the week, the best rider will add his name to the list of past greats. This is the 2018 SBS Bank Tour of Southland. If Wednesday's stage to Coronet swung the 2018 SBS Bank Tour, Thursday's trip from Invercargill to the top of Bluff Hill consolidated that swing. An early break of more than 20 riders featured all the big guns, and with tired legs in the peloton and the famous Tour of Southland crosswinds arriving, the break was never in danger of being caught. The lead pushed out to over 5 minutes as the leaders hit the bottom of Bluff Hill, with Hamish Bond making a play to claim the stage early in the climb. But his teammate James Piccoli showed he was not going to give up his title without a fight, passing Bond to claim the Bluff stage for a second year in a row. Tour leader Michael Vink backed up his Coronet victory to limit his losses to just a matter of seconds and set up a fascinating day on Friday as the Tour heads to Gore.
Oh, thank you.
Paid in gold.
Paid in gold. See, we're paid in gold for our hard work.
A lot of us have ridden together before, so we get on pretty well. And Laz is a big personality. I don't know if you know Laz, this fella here. He's, you see on the back of the van, he's got some crazy deal going today, so you can sit on the back for 65 cents a K. So obviously, you know, just jokes, you know, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, short notice decision. Only 3 weeks ago I decided I'd give it a nudge without too much thought. Got on the road bike, because mainly a mountain biker, and now we're here. Certainly pretty brutal. Yeah, certainly road racing's pretty hard, but really enjoying it. Like, it's been a real good tour so far, and having mixed weather and the hilltop finishes, so it's just good to see how I go with all the other top guys.
Kind of got to follow the GC guys who are going to attack each other today and hope to capitalise on their moves, basically. I think we probably should see some splits over the last couple of KOMs going into Gore this afternoon. And the bunch is already pretty tired. You know, a lot of guys have probably had enough of the wind and the cold, so it'll thin out really quickly over the last few hills, and then be down to the strong guys who will be racing for the win.
Yeah, I mean, I've been both hammer and the nail on the stage in the past, so I know what both sides of that feels like, and I know what we have to do if we want to be the hammer. So I think that's the plan today, and certainly having lost yellow jersey here 2 years ago, that's still fresh in the mind, and I'm certainly going to do whatever I can to stop that happening again.
The penultimate day of the 2018 SBS Bank Tour of Southland, and these riders in the neutral section, Doug, are looking pretty relaxed as they head towards Gore.
Yeah, this is some smiles around here. These school kids always G the riders up. Gosh, that's a good-looking school, Julian. What school's that one?
Oh, outstanding. St. Teresa's School. And another one here, of course, down the road, Southland Boys High School, out to welcome the bunch, but in particular, Corbin Strong, one of their classmates here. It's his final day at school, but of course, he's doing a bit of wagging out for a bit of a bike ride. That
is a very, very powerful display there, Julian. I've never, ever seen anything like that in New Zealand cycling before, and Corbin Strong from Southland Boys High, that is a really, really incredible moment for him. He'll remember that for the rest of his life. And speaking of schools, James Hargis Junior High is where the flag is dropped here on Layard Street in Invercargill. And as we can see from the graphics, these riders will head out of town across to central Southland through Winton, where they've been through a number of times over the years, and eventually over the lumpy, bumpy roads towards Gore. As we said at the start, and Michael Vink has reiterated again, this man will be feeling a wee bit nervous about the stage. He has had the highs and lows. Here he is having a wee bit of a chat to Matt Zenovich. They're trying to keep things together, I guess, at the start. But Michael Vink will be very nervous, but obviously very confident at this stage too. He's right up the front. He's looking very, very good. And of course, for placemakers, Dylan Kennett sitting up towards the front here. He's a man that's been marked in the books many a time throughout this tour so far, in the hope that there'd be a bunch
bunch sprint finish. And the smiles are on the faces still, Doug, here, fairly relaxed. This will be suiting Vink at this point in time. As you said, this stage has certainly determined the tour a number of times.
That's correct. There's been a number of ambushes we've witnessed in this stage, and things can turn upside down on their heads, but the conditions themselves, of course, after yesterday being so tough, the riders' morale will just be so much higher without having to have all the wet weather gear and having the water rushing up in the cold. So this is a really, really neat start for them. It's good to see they're getting the full gamut of weather here in Southland.
Rider 111, Liam Cappell there of Auckland for the Vet for Farm team. Of course, he had a hard day yesterday. He had a mechanical problem. The electrics on the bike just decided to fail and he had to walk up, and it was Dylan Kennett who came along and got him up the hill on his bike instead. But overnight, they've now got Julian Dean, Tour de France rider. His bike has been bought out for him there. Peter Godding, former New Zealand mechanic, got it transferred this morning, got all the gears onto it to get this man out on the road. Another fantastic opportunity to show you how the support for these teams makes a big difference to get these riders out there day in and day out.
We really do get excited when we hear that sort of thing. Julian Dean has had an incredible year this year as the director sportif of the Mitchelton Scott team. They won the Vuelta this year, so a great thing. Julian Dean is a legend of this race, and his years here were just incredible. So the terrain again and the lumps and bumps, you can see there Hamish Bond was on the front. The Kia Motors Ascot Park guys, gosh, they just hit a race. So you cannot help but be impressed by this squad.
No, it's Gherkins from the United States, the man that's been here a few times over, who's been sent up the road by the team in the red there. And of course, 171 also in amongst them here, who's headed off the front with that small group, is Josh Page from the Business South team. Of course, he's the New Zealand Club Road Champion, so he's got himself in the mix. Then the Tigers for punishment, of course, the stripes of the yellow and the black. The Aardvark team once again showing their wares at the front.
It's not splitting up at the back here though too. The whole field is together other than that front breakaway, but it is a big bit of elastic. This as more and more attacks go, we'll see more and more splits, but here we are at the front. These guys have got a wee bit of a gap, not yet completely away. You can still see the chasing group. There's no support vans in behind them. They're all having a wee look over the shoulder, so early days yet in this stage.
And again, as we've said time and time again, there's the terrain, but it's also the weather conditions. And at this point in time, that's not playing into the hands of some of these riders here. Some of these hardened bike riders were hoping for a bit more wind and rain. It is forecast, but for more likely to be later in the day, as a 1 minute 48 second gap, as we see a great shot of the entire peloton just cruising through, many of them bunched up with their own teammates.
Yeah, that's right. The Michael Vink's WPC South there, Joyride Apparel, they'll be at the front controlling things. You can see all the Kia Motors squad together, the Placemakers squad together, the Powernet squad together. So things are very, very organised. This is a wee bit more structured that we haven't really seen a lot of in this year's SBS Bank Tour. We are used to seeing this kind of thing, but with the helter-skelter nature of the weather and some of the riders, the likes of Zenovich's and so on, breaking things up all the time, it's very, very tough to get a pattern going.
Meanwhile, the leaders on the front there just decide, they ignore the colours, they decide to come together as a team here and just roll nice and smoothly in the hope that the bunch will let them escape. So the chasing peloton make their way out of Hedgehope here, up a bit of a climb up towards the golf course, and they're looking pretty relaxed here, Doug, at this point in time. As you said, a much more structured look to it. As we say, though, here's the men in reds, and it is Bond on the fluoro bike, who's decided I might just put a bit of a nudge in and see what sort of response I can get from the man in yellow.
Yeah, it has been too structured, really, hasn't it, Julian, up to this point. Here's Hamish Bond stretching the legs again. This is a typical pose of Hamish Bond. We've seen a lot of this man in this year's SBS Bank Tour. He'll be really, really stoked with his ride so far. He's come into it with some good form. He's going to come out of it with an even better lot of form and a hell of a lot of experience. So big ups to Hamish Bond. He can really do some damage when he turns it on, and his career as a time trialer, I think, is looking pretty safe. He's obviously got some long-term goals going forward to Olympics and so on, but Hamish Bond, there you go, blows the field to pieces again.
Yes, look at that, 62.8k an hour down the descent. sense out of Headshove here, and that is really starting to stretch them out. I mean, Bond was seen it time and time again, and it's quite deceiving on the bike, the big figure, as he just winds it up and he stretches these guys out well and truly. It was interesting to note, of course, Vink got himself across, and he took with him, or he had with him already, one of his teammates in support. These guys have been well stretched out here, the pressure on, and the likes of Zenovic here in the green jersey, the Harcourt sprint ace. There's the king of the mountains, Bat. He's had a fine ride indeed. He's getting himself up onto the green jersey to try and stay in form here in the very front of this peloton, because things are being stretched out as they chase across that lead group.
Yeah, this is a pretty incredible spot to be in. You can see there Matt Zenovic, who normally in the crosswinds is one of the aggressors. But here we go, Hamish Bond at the front. This guy is just torn the whole chasing peloton to pieces, and here they go catching that front group in the distance. Hamish Bond single-handedly has done a demo job on the front of the peloton there. They're going to get across to these leaders. I am looking at Hamish Bond, Julian, and I'm thinking that is the sort of thing that Jack Sport would have done in his day in the Tour of Southland years ago.
Absolutely, Doug. It certainly brings back memories of those sorts of efforts across the roads of Southland here as he just pounds his way up right towards the front. Of course, he's got Gherkins there waiting for him. He'll drag him on through here. But look, glued to the wheel, right to it there is the man in the yellow, Vink. He knows what he has to do today. He's got the time advantage, of course, still of over a minute on the likes of Bond, as Fouché now heads through to the front of the race here in this lead group. He's already been in the break all day long and has still got the legs once again to have a bit of a crack. Looks like Gaze is the next man who can see the danger times here and is going to jump himself across that leading handful.
Yeah, that's impressive, really. Vink has taken a gamble there, but he realises the strength of Hamish Bond. He waited until basically everyone had jumped across and is stuck to Hamish Bond's wheel. A lesser person would have probably tried to panic and jump across, but he obviously realises Hamish Bond's firepower here, and he's just stuck, like you said, to the back of the Kia Motors Hamish Bond. Incredible.
Here you go, rider 121, I think it was, just coming through there, Jordan Gilmore of the Central Benchmakers Wilbot team. He's been one of the men away in this lead group for the day here, and he's just hanging in there as these countless attacks go on. So meantime, it's now PowerNet that try and get themselves to calm things down, but they haven't got time to wait here, as again, Bond just grinds his way through on the inside, and again Vink tied onto his wheel. Corbin Strong there, inspired by his schoolmates here, is holding on there in the pink jersey. Of course, Corbin is wearing the Henderson Construction under 23 jersey here today, but he's actually second overall in that category, but he's making his bid here to try and ensure that he can actually gain some more time back and potentially take that classification.
Gosh, he's in some big company here, Corbin Strong. He's getting a real baptism of fire in his first ever SBS Bank Tour. I'm really impressed with Corbin Strong. This kid has got a huge future in front of him in New Zealand cycling. He's probably going to head down the track avenue, Julian. We may or may not see him in the road sense as much if he carries on down that track line. But Hamish Bond, man, he is determined today to do some damage.
And we can now see the polka dot jersey there of the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. That was Ethan back there. And of course, he is the man who is leading both in the under 23 and in the King of the Mountains. And due to the priority order of the jerseys, they obviously can't wear both there. So that's hence why we see the man second here in the pink jersey, Corbin Strong, out in front wearing that today. And he'll be getting a bit desperate back in that main bunch, the King of the Mountains. He wants to hold on to that there. It's a great battle between these under 23-year-olds. A lot of young guys in this year's tour, Doug, that are showing these older guys how it's done.
They're setting themselves up here, of course, as we go further along in the stage. Believe it or not, we actually haven't got to the seriously lumpy, bumpy stuff, so it's going to be an incredible time here coming up for these riders. They've got some big climbs to go over on their way to the finish.
So it looks as though our chasing peloton may well make connection here with the front after a lot of those hit-outs there by the Kia Motors boys in particular here. This large field, maybe 30 to 40 riders by the looks of it, Doug. And it's, again, it looks like one of the creation signs. Ronald McDonald House South Island Rico is away here. And that well could be Fouché again. He's been on the front for a fair bit of today, but they're going to come back together and re-establish the rules to see who can actually make the moves.
Once again, one of the lumps and bumps we get here, this is the climb before Titipu. After Titipu, we head up over the Sawmill Hill, and James Piccoli, we haven't seen him all day, and here he is now at the front. He's exposing his hand. He's watched Hamish Bond, his teammate, soften things up for him at the front. Piccoli really did the damage here last year. He knows exactly where the roads are, where the bumps are, and Piccoli is on the charge.
And you can see, Doug, a lot of those riders starting to rock and roll over the bike. This is hurting. It's only a bit of a bump here on the outskirts of Mataura, but Piccoli is putting in some damage to some of these riders. So the main peloton back together here, of course, 30, 40 odd riders. And again, it's the colours of the red Kia Motors Ascot Park team as they descend down towards Mataura this time around. They've had another couple of climbs here. Of course, this is the point in which we saw Piccoli at the front last time, Doug, 12 months ago, but he was away by himself at that stage.
Yes, that's right, Julian. He really had an incredible ride here in this stage last year. The Kia Motors guys, though, they're very, very organised. They're the most organised squad here in this stage today, and they're really, really setting Vink up. They're making sure he's having to do some work. He's obviously following wheels at the stage along the lines of Hamish Bond, but Michael Vink will be very, very nervous here. He'll be thinking, hey, I've got to be on my game. I can't be caught back out. And Hamish Bond, again, you can see him have a wee look over his shoulder. They are really, really chucking everything at this WPC South Joyride Apparel team, and in particular Michael Vink.
And it's Alex Heaney. Looks like he's tucked himself into second spot. Of course, the man right back at the beginning of the week, it seems such a long time ago, who put himself into the yellow jersey after the PowerNet team's effort around the team time trial. But you're right, Vink waiting very patiently here, and that he knows what happens on this sort of stage before. He has to just track the guys who are in serious contention to try and topple them over, but he's riding a very professional ride here.
He's very focused. He'll have had some sleepless nights on the back of the stage, I would say.
Doug, another crash down. And it looks like we could have the polka dot jersey and one of the Kia boys as well, Gherkins. I think, Doug, by count, that would be about his third crash this week for the man. And as for the King of the Mountains as well, this could put some damage into the fact that he could lose time in not only the King of the Mountains, but also the under 23. But we're looking in pretty serious harm here.
He's not looking good at all, Julian. There's another one of the Vet for Farm boys, number 113. He's often in the mix too. Glenn Hayden, he's obviously having some mechanicals, but this is a disaster here for the polka dot jersey. That's the last thing he really needs. The poor lad, he's had such a great race. Ethan Batty's been in all the splits, all the moves, and it appears to be very serious for him.
It was great to see once again, though, for those who are new to the sport, the great support with the wheel changes, the mechanics. They jump in there as quickly as they can, and really for the rider, they just have to stay calm, and they've got to wait patiently while things get changed, and they'll try and make their way up through the convoy. That's the various vehicles, and there's probably a good 100 of them in the race here as they try and get themselves back towards the front. Speaking of which, it is Bond on the front again. They go upwards. He decides to put some pressure on. Vink tucked in behind him. We see the green jersey there of Zenovic, and of course they'll be looking for the likes of Dylan Kennett. It'd be a fine finish for him into Gore, of course, that long straight, if they can get the placemaker's man there.
Yes, slowly but surely this front group is whittling itself down here, Julian, as we get closer to Gore. Now we're coming into the outskirts of Gore before the famous Broughton Street, and that is often a springboard for a lot of attacks for the stage finish. So it's going to be interesting to see again, of course, where the Hamish Bond sets himself up. There's Michael Vink, the tour leader, stuck right in behind him, but it is going to really be the springboard for a number of these riders to try and get away before the stage finish here into Gore.
Yes, just a mere 5k to go. They've got an upwards movement here very shortly with the Broughton Street Hill. Then they descend very quickly and around the back towards the Croydon Lodge before swinging into the main street of Gore, which always has fantastic support in this tour and has been a part of the tour for a number of years. And we've been speaking about youngsters. Here's Tom Sexton, part of the New Zealand track endurance squad here, has a bit of a crack off the front, and it's Piccoli trying to get himself across to him.
Yeah, Tommy Sexton is another one of the youngsters that's produced from Southland, but Piccoli, he is the danger man. They're going to watch him snip away here up Broughton Street. He'll be hoping to take another couple of seconds away. There's the Aardvark team, the Aardvark Excavators team, but it's Piccoli. Piccoli is now striking away clear. It's quite a tough climb, Broughton Street. It does carry on over the top, and you've really got to push hard. But you can see here Piccoli is just gassing this, and he's gapped the whole field.
There are gaps plenty, as the man here sitting and currently in 4th place on the general classification. He's about 3 minutes 20 odd behind. He's trying to push his case here to get himself onto the podium going into Invercargill tomorrow. Remember, this is the second to last day. He'll pick up a few King of the Mountains points, but I think here this is the bid for glory to take out another stage. Can he get 2 from 2 in 2 days in a row here?
He never gives up, James Piccoli. He'll have been really disappointed, of course, with the crash that he had at the Coronet base, but Piccoli has got 1k to go, and he is just in full time trial mode here and is smashing it out all the way to the finish at Gore. He is smoking along here, Julian. He is going to win this stage, I would say, and is really trying to get some time back on this overall lead.
This is all about time. Every second he can claim back here. And of course, he'll get the time bonuses as well. They give out the time bonuses for the first 3 across the line. So he'll pick those up as he enters into the main street of Gore. And some great support from the kids from St. Mary's Gore School, by the looks of it there. Gore main and mixed as well as he comes through. Piccoli, the defending champion, 2 days in a row. Bluff Hill and into Gore. It couldn't be any more different.
And here we are lining up for the bunch gallop here into Gore, and it's going to be a very close sprint here, Julian. There's 4 or 5 riders that are going to potentially take this, but it looks to me to be one of the placemaker squatters at Dylan Kennett.
Dylan Kennett, he gets the kick home, yes. He's done it so many times. They didn't quite get the timing right. Look out for him tomorrow going into Gala Street, but it's all about the man in red once again, James Piccoli. A sign of a true champion, the defending champion, taking out 2 stages thus far here in the SBS Bank Tour of Southland. Canadian James Piccoli takes out the stage and now moves himself into the top 3 of the tour this year, while Michael Vink rode a very cool, calm, collected ride to continue to lead by 1:32 over Bond. While Matt Zenovich picked up a few extra points, but it well and truly looks to have the Harcourt's green jersey secured going into the last day of the tour. Ethan Batt, after having a bit of a tumble, still has enough of a buffer over Piccoli and Zenovich in the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. While Batt also continues to lead by over 2 minutes 22 over Corbin Strong and Brown in the Henderson Construction under-23 category. Paul Odland, for another day on the tour, holds on to the Stonewood Homes silver jersey by over 5 minutes over Hayden. New Zealand representative James Fouché made himself available in the break today and was awarded the most combative for the tour. Piccoli's Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel team have a dominant 8 minutes 16 seconds over WPC South Joyride Apparel and PowerNet at 10:36 in the Wednesday Cycles team classification.
The team's plan was to gain as much time as we could back on GC with Hamish, who's currently in second. And I mean, anyone who watched the race could tell we were definitely the strongest team out there, really throwing everything we had at the race. Didn't end up working for GC, but ended up working for the stage win, so we're happy to come away with that.
The boys did a fantastic job today. They were so good in the first 100 Ks controlling it, and they set it up for me in the last 50 K just to follow the important guys, and that's what happened. And yeah, I had great legs today, and I recovered really well from yesterday, and that's really good confidence going into the time trial tomorrow.
Follow the action from this historic race with live race updates, full results and pictures at www.tourofsouthland.com.